laterally, always present yourself as part of a equitable voice that leads the South, like we did in 2027 with the loss and damage fund. After that, I haven't heard much of it from even Pakistan. You then have to remember that your house is on fire, you're on 53 degrees in the summer in parts of Balochistan and Sindh. And when that happens, those areas come to a grinding halt. Nobody can work in the fields, nobody can work in the cities, labor cannot work outside, daily wage earners are the most impacted, poverty grows, and the resistance and the capacity of those households and communities to face a new challenge or even the heat that is crippling and paralyzing becomes reduced. We don't have access to air conditioning no matter how many cooling centers the government builds. And government alone is not equipped with the kind of squeeze we have on debt servicing and many other pressures to lay out the kind of revolutionary billions, hundreds of billions dollars of resilience net needed. There isn't that kind of capital available or disposable income available to any government or even to individuals or even to businesses. Businesses actually have to be involved, and I would urge all, including Red Crescent, to see if they can involve the private sector in creating holistic solutions. Now, when you do that, Pakistan's private sectors barely putting in 5% of financing on that. Globally, that's not the case. So some kind of mobilization is needed, and for every mobilization, obviously, messaging is needed, because even today, from the West to here, we have people saying, well, actually climate change doesn't matter, what can we do about it? So we have less plastic on our tables, thanks to our regulation, and thank you, Ms. Naik, for recognizing that, because plastic is choking your brains. You don't want to acknowledge it, but it is choking your brains. It is making you less resilient. It is not going into recycling. Pakistan recycles only 1%. And the world recycles only 9%, but that's a digression. After all, after hearing at least 20 years of recycling talk, only 9% globally. So please come back to the ground. My position here is that the stress on frontline economies is so great, the exogenous shock is so great that even the IMF calculates, World Bank calculates that you need 348 billion until 2030 to stay resilient or sustainable, with little circularity in our economy, which in plain words means that we are not able to cycle our goods formally, but informally we do repair and reuse many of our things. It is not documented. So there's no lack of hope. Formally you are told, oh, your economy is broken in terms of circularity. It's actually not. Every city, particularly the big ones in Pakistan, are reusing and recycling informally. You can go to Sher Shah in Karachi and you will find everything from fans to waste recycled into products. Doesn't happen in the first world, it happens here. It's a function of poverty. And it's a function of innovation also. So please understand that the Jugaad economy in the entire South Asian Forum is reusing, recycling, and repairing broken items and not wasting resources, which is crucial because it's all sinking into your waterways. So do things you can at least control. You can control your pollution, the air pollution, which is already making all our eyes water, especially if you're going to Punjab, and it is killing over, I don't know, the numbers keep going up, but over 100,000 people every year. More than terrorism, but now the terrorism graph is also rising, but the numbers used to be very high, and I call it a serial killer. Water pollution is extremely high. Your Indus River is one of the 5 most polluted rivers in the world. This is entirely in your control. Entirely. The river is running through every province except Balochistan. and all your cities are clustered around it except Quetta. So a lot can be done ourselves. Countries that expect to save themselves or to come back with a better response to climate change, a more resilient, a less vulnerable response, are the countries that work across the board, that don't just sit back, and that's why volunteers are excellent cohorts to talk to. You're not sitting back and saying, well, the government should do everything. Nowhere in the world does any response work that way. Volunteers are the heart, the core, and the backbone of disaster response. But I would urge you also, since you're having this conference, to become further engaged as champions of change in battling climate change. So you can say, how do we do it? Well, you do it by the power of the individual. You do it by reducing your carbon footprint, your plastic footprint. And you will see, if you start documenting even a group of your actions, that you are an agent of change. So you are not stripped of agency or power. It's there. You are able to do things that you can plant trees, and then not just plant them, then adopt that tree to see it through, like your own life cycle, to see it through maturity. And once you're doing that, you are already part of the restoration and nature-based solutions chain. Nature-based solutions are highly recommended for countries like Pakistan, and the good news is we are restoring our mangroves, which capture carbon more than 4 to 5 times more than any average tree in Sindh, and it's monetized for carbon credits. But there is a lot more that can be done on the ground. And that's why I think it's very important to focus on a conference of parties here. Pakistan needs its own conference of parties. The parties are the people, the provinces, seriously, the people and the provinces. They need to come together in one long conferencing, if you like, intense sharing of information, because without data you cannot operate, and data is notoriously absent on the ground. Climate stress are often science-based responses, and science is based on data and on knowledge. So that data has got to be built up, that data has to be shared, and the provinces all have unique challenges of adaptation, literally, from mountain to delta. GB has critical challenges, its glaciers are melting. The entire country from mountain to delta faces new meltdown challenges. The glaciers are melting at a much higher rate than before. They have glacial lake outburst floods. And from GB and KP to Karachi, you need early warning systems. More than me saying, as Pakistan, going there and saying, I commit to this many NDCs. Very good. What have your commitments to NDCs done? My last time, we also positioned ourselves to say, what is the developing world doing for Pakistan and other countries, all the global south, the low emitters, Africa, which is, all of it is 4% of global emissions. We are less than 1%. So, there needs to be internationally determined contributions, just like NDCs, like everyone is saying we are contributing to reducing emissions. This has to be contributions from the global north to the global south. If you have any interest in climate justice at that level, it's got to be internationally determined contributions. What are they contributing, tabulated by the UNFCCC to the global south? अब you will hear कि global quantified finance goals हैं, वो चलता जा रहा है ठोक ठोक 300 billion. Where is that 300 billion? Is it coming to you? Is it coming to Pakistan? Is it coming to Red Crescent, who is on the front line of fighting disaster? It's not. When it's coming, it's in very small amounts, and we are always grateful for those climate funds, because they're targeted at one project or the other. But that's what they are. That's what you're told constantly, to build bankable projects. I'm really tired of that. I'm really tired of asking people who have been fighting climate change without even knowing they're fighting it, that they have to build bankable projects. Everybody will tell me, why are you telling me? No, we will build bankable projects, but that's conference talk. That is just conference talk. Build bankable projects, bid internationally with developing countries in the GCF and GEF, and what will you get? Barely 26 million? Just for your updating your alert systems, which is a fundamental right according to the UN Secretary General, you need at least $1 billion or more. So what are we talking about? Sure, enhance your capacity, be out there competing, but no, our countries should not have to compete for funds. I'm sorry, investments and markets don't rush to the front lines of disaster. They go where they can bring profit. And that's all very well. Do the debt swaps, do all of that. Build that guardrail on the side. But we are at a place where our house is burning. When your house, you'll see this every season. You'll see every season a disaster in some area of the country. I don't know if anyone's even noticed, Balochistan has become brown, The Met Office has said that 11 or 12 districts are facing drought. You've just come out of a flood, barely, from the north to the south, and Balochistan is facing drought. Drought and flooding are twin symptoms of the same problem of extreme weather volatility. And what are we telling them? Go and pump more water for we'll solarize your wells, pump more groundwater. There's no groundwater left in Balochistan. There isn't any. And so all the lovely orchards that we grew up seeing in Quetta have gone. They're all brown. Everything is brown. Chitral today is brown. It used to be green. I mean, I'm well over 60, so I know that it used to be green. You probably don't. It's brown because the trees have been cut and timber mafias are allowed to do this. I'm just speaking very plainly. These are governance issues which can be handled here. The entire flood generated a strange discourse of let's build dams. Which dam just got the money to get built, even if you want to build the dam? Do you know what consortium financing can build a dam? This is not the era of Tarbela and Mangla. That's over. Very good, we have them. But now, you can talk all you want, but there is just the two dams on your PSDP, Dasu and Vyamid Bhasha have huge project overruns. You know what cost overruns are in governance? They mean that the price keeps going up because you can't mobilize the matching financing. So it's all about money. But we should not lose hope or become despairing. There are hundreds of nature-based solutions that we can resort to depending on the ecology of the area, depending on where the river runs. Most of them are science-based, and many students I know have solutions from, how to convert plastic into usable, sustainable items. But most of all, people have solutions here for how to manage a river going over, how to create agricultural or crops that don't require paddy flooding. You don't have the water now. And guess which crop is impacted most? Our export crop, rice, this year. So you've got to find low-cost innovations at home. No one is coming for you. You can go to any number of conferences. Please keep going. That is important. Have your voice there. But understand that they're not coming tomorrow to solve your agricultural problems or the fact that your water is running out. Pakistan's principal problem for climate is water, whether there's too much of it or whether there's not enough of it. And so the creative solutions will have to be found depending on the area, depending on what is available and what will not cause damming of the river which is extremely unhealthy for downstream economies and which is equitable. Pakistan is a federation, it needs consensus, it needs political solutions that are respectful of each other's needs. As Sindh, I cannot disrespect Balochistan's needs because they are lower riparian. Therefore, when we say the Indus Water Treaty is being politicized and weaponized, we should be careful as lower and upper riparians everywhere within our federation to be respectful of each other's rights and recognize them as fundamental. Right? So water and air are two things that we need to work on. The air quality in Punjab is disastrous. You can control much of the problem, and obviously the guns being used are not a solution. So I hope that leaves you all a lot to think about. The conference of parties is needed within Pakistan as well. Think very hard about what we can achieve. We are an innovative youth cohort. NUST has many innovations I've seen. So let's move forward with that. Everyone is motivated, everyone is mobilized, there is enough knowledge, and we can build on the passion to restore resilience to our country. That's where this will matter. So thank you very much for listening this long.